G'day hikers and welcome to the 2020 Hike to Highlands Virtual Festival. My name is Tom Wilson and I'll be your host today. Today's topic is travel and trip planning for international trips, and my guest is Mr. Craig Smith. Craig is a retired accountant and we know him as the international man of leisure. He retired at 55 and is enjoying life really good. Welcome to the show, Craig. My first question is, can you tell us about some of your international trips?
Sure. Thanks, Tom. Yeah, I've traveled quite a bit in my working life, and then actually in my retirement life. I've been retired for 5 years. So I usually go to England, Northern England, sort of my default place. It's called Hassness House in the Lake District National Park in Northern England. And it's a great spot because you can go for a week. They provide all the meals, the accommodations, and the guides. You just get up in the morning, have breakfast, you go for a guide. Basically a 8 to 10 mile hike. The highest, they call them mountains, about 3,000 feet would be the highest, but it's typically 2,000 feet. So it's great day hiking, very sparsely populated, very scenic, just a great place to hike. But I've hiked other places, Peru, Croatia, Spain, Portugal, Turkey, Greece, South Africa. We actually hiked Table Mountain one day. It was funny. We hiked up Table Mountain. We started at about 5:45 in the morning, hiked up the top of the mountain, got up there and cafeteria, and the lady went, "Where'd you come from?" Because we got there before the gondola had started, and
Okay,
scared the hell out of the lady. Just wondered where we got, but we actually hiked up. It took us about an hour and a half to hike up. And that was pretty deep. It was a pretty warm day, so we started. They say we started at 5:45, and that was a pretty neat hike. But one of the places that I've visited but I haven't hiked, but I'd really like to hike, is actually Poland. There's great hiking in Poland, and I was just there basically on a sightseeing tour. And but that is one country I'd like to go back to. And actually Greece, the Greek islands are a great place to hike. Basically hike from one village to the other. Very scenic, all the vineyards, and yeah.
yeah, my brother goes to Portugal in the wintertime, and he said you should come because he said Portugal is well known for its hiking. And I said,
Yes,
really?
it is. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it would be great to get Florida. I typically go to Florida, but I'm thinking of going to Portugal now because Florida, the weather's nice, but it is quite warm for hiking. Sorry about that. My computer decided to do an update halfway through my interview.
Oh, yeah. That's not good.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Okay, so let's move on to question 2. I think you pretty well covered question 1.
Okay, great.
So question 2 is, what research and safety precautions do you normally make when you're preparing and planning for an international trip?
Typically for the research, I start out actually with 2 or 3 travel books, typically Rick Steves and Lonely Planet. And I always get the latest edition because they're basically outdated the day they're printed. Yep. Events change, venues change, restaurants change, accommodations. So I always get the latest books, and then I go on the internet and research. I mean, travel is a whole lot easier now than it was, 30 years ago or 35 years ago. Now the internet has changed basically everything. Yep. So basically I sort of cross-reference sort of 3 different things. If 3 different things say it's a great hike or it's a great place to visit, great site, typically it's a great hike. So typically I look for generalities where it's basically they're recommended by 2 or 3 different independent groups. As far as precaution goes, always have travel insurance, always. Never leave without it. I fell off my bike a couple of years ago in Florida. I didn't even spend the day in the hospital. I spent like 8 hours in the hospital, got a few stitches, got a few scans, never saw a doctor, $42,000 US. So
wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy down there. So never, I mean, I wouldn't leave the province without medical insurance. As far as travel insurance, I typically self-insure because they take that many trips. So I figure if it costs me a couple $100 each time, well, sooner or later I'm going to get caught. I've been pretty lucky so far. I haven't got caught, but it's just a matter of time before something happens, catch a flight or catch a train or somebody gets sick or whatever. So I've been pretty lucky that way.
Yeah, because in 2018, my wife and I went over to Scotland to visit Orkney and Shetland Islands. And that was the first time we really used our trip cancellation insurance. Um, our flight got canceled because of high winds and fog, and the plane couldn't land to take us to Glasgow. So Logan Air said, we'll get you there. So, and they did. They looked after a ferry from Lerwick to Aberdeen, and then took a taxi from Aberdeen to Glasgow. And I can always remember a 3-hour taxi ride cost £550. What they did pretty well on that one, and that's over like $1,100 Canadian. And then, of course, when you're at the airport, you say, okay, so we take the ferry and do all that. Oh, I got to book another flight because I'm going to be delayed another day. And then I had to book accommodations. And so anyway, got that all straightened away. We were on one economy flight, and then we had to get bumped up to the premium, which is kind of like WestJet's first business class or first class. And so we got that straightened away, and then we got a room where we previously had booked. And so that all worked out. So then when I got home to Halifax, we asked WestJet, and they said, well, you got to talk to your insurance company. I said, okay, we'll do that. And so then we filled out a form, and in the end, we got our money back for our flights, and also the accommodation and the meals. So I'm saying I'm doing this again, just in case, because you never know. And really, Logan Air did more than what they had to do, but still our trip cancellation insurance covered the next part, which was the flight home and the accommodation. So it makes sense to have that trip cancellation insurance as well as the medical.
Yeah, typically what I do is I'd arrive at my departure destination a day before. So if I'm flying out of London, if I fly out sort of on Thursday morning, I get there sort of Tuesday night.
Yep.
So spend Tuesday night, Wednesday night, spend extra night just as an insurance. I mean, there's nothing wrong with spending a day in London. There's lots to do, lots to see. So
just to be on the safe side, if you ever get to Shetland, stay another day before there just in case. As well, maybe in Orkney. Orkney's only like 40-some minute flight from, no, it might have been a little longer, maybe an hour at the most, and then from Shetland to Glasgow, probably a couple hours.
Okay.
So yeah, it makes sense to stay a day before there just in case you have problems with your flights.
Yeah.
In lieu of what you know now with COVID-19, when do you feel that it would be safe again to travel?
I wouldn't travel outside of Atlantic Canada until they had a vaccine, a proven vaccine, and the vaccine was out for 3 or 4 months. So I've already canceled my trip for Florida next year. I haven't got any trips planned at all. Might be a long winter, but until they have a vaccine, I mean, it's basically out of control. And Atlantic Canada is probably one of the safest places in the world. So there's lots of opportunities, go visit Gross Mourne in Newfoundland, or, lots of places to see in your own backyard.
So. Yeah, and Dr. Tam, who's the Canada's chief medical officer, she indicated one time on her CBC broadcast that even when the vaccine is approved and developed, she's hinting that we should still wear a mask for the next 2 to 3 years, along with following social distancing. So we're certainly not out of the woods yet.
No, and there's no actually guarantee that we'll ever have a vaccine. That's sort of the scary part.
Ooh, that's not good.
I think they're throwing so much money at it, they will find one, but there's no guarantee they'll actually find an effective vaccine.
That's right. I know that we had booked a trip to Scotland this year, and we're looking at Iceland and Faroe Islands the following year, and then maybe Scotland again, and then Ireland. So we got 4 trips to do in the next 4 to 5 years, but they're all hinging on a lot of variables, like you said. And certainly you want to go when it's safe.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my recommendation would be that people just, travel in your own backyard and see what we have around here, and then, do that for the next year or so, and then travel abroad from there.
It's funny you say that, because in 2019, when I retired, that's basically what I did. I stayed in the backyard, and we went to PEI for 2 weeks and Newfoundland for 2 weeks. Had a great time.
Mm-hmm.
And, I guess maybe we'll have to do that again for a little while.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be a good choice.
Yes. Well, Greg, on behalf of Hike the Highlands Festival Society, we'd like to thank you for joining us today and giving your comments and your experience on traveling and trip planning for international travel. And we wish you lots of fun in your next travels in the land of Canada. And hopefully it won't be too long before we can get back to the international travels.
Well, okay, great. Thanks, Tom. And I look forward to Hike the Highlands 2021.